Well, I never thought we'd be back here, but here we are once again at thegamer.com, my #1 source for all Yu-Gi-Oh information. In today's video, we are reading yet another wonderfully written and described article called 25 Yu-Gi-Oh cards that are impossible to find and how much they're worth. Oh god, it's a doozy. I've read through some of this, and we're going to skip some of the entries because a lot of them on this list are just prize cards, like world prize cards, and that's not very interesting because those ones aren't that inaccurate. But this list is plagued with so many inaccuracies, it is just mind-boggling. Almost every single picture is not of what they're describing. It's hilarious, and like some of their prices are way off as well. I did want to show right before we go into the main article, I have two little snippets of other articles that I want to show you. This one is funny too. It was Yu-Gi-Oh cards that had to be changed in America and 7 that aren't allowed in the game. What's funny about this is that this is like, it flip-flops. It's like two different articles. You basically are reading 8 cards that were censored in some way and then 7 cards that were banned. It flip-flops. It's a very weird situation. But one of the things that I found really funny in this one was this entry right here that says Artorius, King of the Noble Knights, Male Armor. Basically what they're talking about here is that I guess they added something in for the Japanese artwork of this card, but what's funny is that in this little text box here, it talks about how when the card got added to the states or whatever, I think it even says, yeah, this was removed from the international versions of the card. What's funny though is they have it backwards. This was a world premiere card. It was a TCG exclusive card, so actually it changed when it went into Japan, not the other way around. Once again, these sites, they don't check anything. There's no fact checking, there's no editors or whatever. I just found it funny that they just like completely, that whole section is completely wrong because they have it backwards. And then also there was these 25 hilarious custom Yu cards that crossed the line. I couldn't do this one on video. It's I think I would have died. They're just all dead memes, basically. It's so cringy. But what I thought was funny about this one is that it says like they're Yu-Gi-Oh cards that cross the line, when in reality that's not a very good description at all, because none of these cards cross the line. They're all just really cringy on old memes. I don't know what exactly they mean by cross the line. The opening 5 paragraphs don't explain that either, so it's just, I don't know. The Gamer has some really strange articles out there, especially for Yu-Gi-Oh and other anime. But anyway, 25 Yu-Gi-Oh cards that are impossible to find and how much they're worth. And oh, what is that? Doom Caliber Knight, $700, but that looks like the gold rare version. Yes, that's true on almost every single one of these entries besides the world's prize cards, which don't have alternate versions besides the replica versions. Almost all these artworks are wrong, and it is hilarious. I just don't know how can you do an article about these cards being expensive when you don't even show the right card? Yes, it is the same name as Doom Caliber Knight, the original prize card version, but come on, article, like show me what the real artworks are. I have to assume whoever wrote this also added the pictures. It's just very misleading. This is kind of like, I've talked about this in the past, people thinking that their old cards are worth something because they saw a video one time that said Dark Magician Girl is $2,000. Well, probably your version isn't, and then articles like this don't help it at all. No, if you have a Doom Caliber Knight that looks like this, it is not worth $700, and actually the prize card version was worth more than $700 back when it came out, but it's whatever. And it's like, okay, maybe that was just an accident. I mean, ultra rare, gold rare, what's the difference? You ever buy common gold Sarc for $1,300? Why does it say $1,372? Who cares? Why does it 7? I think all these other ones are rounded up. I guess one promo gold Sarcophagus card runs about just about $1,372. Sometimes it's $73, sometimes it's $71, so it's around there, and higher with some of the lowest prices listing around at $999. Well, then say that it's $1,000. Don't say it's $1,372. There are only about 25 of these cards designed, and we're only giving out during a few Shundom Championships. Yeah, those common gold Sarcs, they are pretty pricey. So if you've picked up any copies, you just found a gold mine. Gold mine, gold Sarcophagus, no pun intended. Yeah, I don't know. Once again, this is when I opened this article and I was like, okay, maybe they have something interesting to say, but if all these artworks are wrong, it's so misleading to the people that don't know a lot about editions, don't know a lot about rarities, and that's kind of why I made that video a couple of weeks ago, or I guess a couple of months ago at this point, talking about, are your old cards worth anything? Because people read these articles and they say, oh, wow, I have a common gold Sarc, I just found $1,500, when in reality, no, you didn't, and it sucks that these articles exist saying that you did. This one is correct. It's a prize card. Some of them are correct, not all of them, but some of the newer prize cards that they have are, in fact, they do post the real picture, so that's fine. Dark Magician Girl, $1,100. I believe that is the expensive version, the Chinese Dark Magician Girl, which I believe he talks about here. This is like, I don't know, this is one that always makes it into those clickbaity videos where they're talking about like the prices of cards. That was like the original, one of the cards that was in that video that I originally talked about. A lot of people love Dark Magician Girl. It's like a very like fan heavy card. People really like the card. It's iconic. Also, it makes for good clickbait, which is whatever. But when they put this on here, so many people get baited and think that their Dark Magician Girl is worth $1,100, when in reality, no, it's not. It's nowhere even close to that. And while some of the older Dark Magicians, even in the TCG release, are worth something, they're not worth $1,000. That's a very specific version of that card. And we have Minerva, the Exalted Light Swan. Once again, we're right here. We got the ultra rare. Good job, article creator. And then, we're back to not being correct. Crush Card Virus, $2,500 for a rare reprinted version of Crush Card Virus. This is like one of the not even the first reprint, like several reprints down the line. Yeah, no, this Crush Card Virus is not worth $2,500. I think what's so frustrating about this article in particular is that almost all of the entries, I read through most of them, none of them suggest that when they show this artwork, none of them say, oh, this is not the right artwork that I'm talking about. And I don't know if the article writers didn't know or what happened there, but somewhere along the line, something got lost in translation, because like in this, they're saying the card is worth about $2,500, with some listing over $3,000, nowhere mentioning the fact that this is not the right version. And you can find that on the Doom Caliber Knight, the Gold Sarcophagus, the Crush Card Virus, and all the ones coming up. The article writer either doesn't know or doesn't care to tell the readers, like, hey, these aren't the versions of these cards that are expensive. Doesn't help that half of them are correct, except obviously not this one, because this is an Orica of this card. This isn't even a reprint, because this card doesn't have a reprint. This is just a full art Orica, no mention of it in the description. This one's actually hilarious, because the way that they talk about this card, I think the person that wrote this, because I don't know who wrote this, let's take a look here, Erica Bio, whatever. A lot of times these are written by people that don't really know a lot about modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think that happened in this case. So I think that this writer did not know anything about this card, didn't understand what it was saying, because you can see that in this whole paragraph, half of it, more than half of it, is just copy and pasting this card's effect, because clearly they didn't understand what any of that meant. And I understand it. If you're someone that's been out of the game for a little while and you see this thing that says special summon rank 9 or lower number monsters, what are rank 9 monsters? What are number monsters? I see the confusion, but just make something up, or maybe like look up a combo video or literally anything. Do any research so this doesn't look so dumb, just copy and pasting the effects. Imagine if every single one of these entries just said this card does, and then copy and paste the effect. Look really silly, but that one's not correct. Once again, not correct. Shrink, common shrinks. What was funny about this one is that it says, where is it? The first edition of Shrink is the one that even the most dedicated player will have trouble finding. That's technically true if you count the jump as the first edition. The problem is that the ones in this picture are technically first edition. They're not the first printing of the card, but if you see in the bottom left hand corner, because these are first edition cards, they say first edition. That's not what they're talking about in the article, but I think it's very misleading that you say first edition, you have a picture of first edition, but these are the common ones, not the jump ones. And I don't know, once again, why are you making this article if you don't know anything about rarities, editions, all that kind of stuff? But like, you're half correct. Chinese Blue Eyes White Dragon, the ultimate rare version, I think that's correct. I know it's a Chinese version of Blue Eyes White Dragon that is expensive. I think it's the ultimate rare one, but that one I'm not entirely sure, so I won't make any comment on that. Chinese Dark Magician, pretty well known one. Once again, at least with this, they put Chinese in the title there, where if you scroll up to the Dark Magician Girl, notice how it just says Dark Magician Girl, $1,100. Very misleading stuff, but at least they got the Blue Eyes and Dark Magician correctly. No, you're luckily, and that's important too, because there is a reprinted version of this card in the TCG TCG with this artwork nowadays, so it's important to actually put the Chinese there. Why it wasn't in the Dark Condition Girl entry, I have no idea, but at least they were half right on some of these. We got a World's Prize card. There's a bunch of these in here, and that makes sense. We got the Rainbow Dragon misprint. I don't know why misprint is in quotation marks, because no, it literally is a misprint. And also they talk about in this paragraph that it's a misprint. I don't know, maybe that's like the English major in me, but I see people do signs sometimes that have the quotation marks that are supposed to be like in place of like putting like stars or bolding the word or whatever to make it stand out. But when I read this, it's like, oh yeah, it's a Rainbow Dragon misprint. Like it sounds like a sarcastic remark when I read quotation marks like that. The card is a misprint, and you say that in the paragraph, so don't put the quotation marks there. Anyway, that's enough English major for you. We have another prize card. They didn't even show the card in this picture. I don't know if they couldn't find a good picture. Sometimes with these older prize cards, it can be pretty tricky to actually find like a good high resolution picture of these cards, even just old cards in general. Whenever I do old cards in videos, it's pretty hard to find like good high resolution pictures. So maybe that's why I didn't put it there, but I just find it funny. That's like the only one I think that doesn't have the picture of the card, even if the card they're talking about isn't the one that they show in the picture. Then we have RedEyes Black Dragon. Once again, very misleading, because what they're talking about here, and I didn't even realize this, I had to look this up, because in the picture it shows the jump version with like the alternate artwork, but what they're actually talking about is the LOB version of RedEyes, which does not have the artwork, is not from that same set. That was something I didn't know. I was like, wait a second, is that artwork worth like a lot of money? And it's worth something, but it's not worth $800, $1,300. That's the LOB version, probably first edition, that was sold with like PSA graded. I should just mention, a lot of these prices, like almost all of the high-end prices that they're showing, are based on PSA 10s or 9s, which is very misleading, because when you grade a card, the value goes up exponentially, especially on these collector's items. Sometimes they can like more than double, which will come up in a second. Stardust Divinity, one of the most well-known prize cards. No, nothing wrong there. Mechanical Chaser. This is what I was talking about. So Mechanical Chaser, first off, it's really funny they say apparently there's only 11 of these in circulation too, so anyone lucky enough to have gotten one might want to hold on to it. Completely false. There are hundreds of these. Maybe not that people are selling, but there's hundreds of these like out there. They're not that hard to find. I hopped on eBay and I found about 20 of them in varying degrees of played, and some of them are PSA graded, some of them aren't. What they're showing in this picture is, okay, for once, the correct card. I mean, not for once. They got it right a couple times, but it is the correct version of the card, the Ultra Rare Tournament Pack 1 version. This card used to be very expensive when it came out. It was like $100, and right now it is still relatively expensive. Like you're looking at $400 to $600 for a near mint one that's not graded, and if they're graded, yeah, they're about $1,000, maybe up to $1,600 at some point, but there are multiple ones for $1,000 that were PSA 10s, so I don't think it really goes that high anymore. But this article was written like a couple months ago, whatever, so I'll give it some slack for that. But once again, this is just straight up lying to the audience, and I think it's more of an ignorance thing. I think it's more of just not knowing about certain situations. But yeah, you can't just say, don't say apparently there's only 11 of these in circulation. I think what that means is that when the person wrote this article, they went to eBay, typed in Mechanical Chaser TP1, and they only found 11 results. So they thought, well, that means there's only 11 in circulation. Not really true. Lots of people selling things that aren't eBay. You can find stuff on TCG Player. You can just find stuff that people are selling to vendors at events, or vendors are selling, although they probably wouldn't sell a card as expensive as this. But just like sort of keep that in mind. Just because you only see like a finite number of cards on eBay doesn't mean that that's the only amount of those cards out in existence. Plenty of people just hold on to cards and sell them years later. There's more than 11 of these floating around, I can guarantee it. Then we have Chaos Emperor the Dragon Armageddon. Once again, correct. These newer prize cards, a lot of times they do get correct, which is, I guess, okay. Blood Mephis, once again, correct. To be fair, though, one of the reasons that they're getting the newer prize cards right is that there isn't another version of them. I mean, Utopia Kaiser, they found like an Orca, but in the case of this card, in the case of this card, and in the case of one of the other cards that we looked at, not just talking about the World's prize cards, but the YCS prize cards, there's no other versions of them out there, so it's like if they found any picture of the card, it was likely going to be the real picture of the card. So we go through those. Ascension Sky Dragon, wrong version of the card. This is not worth $2,500. What they're looking for is they got an ultra rare, and it is an Ascension Sky Dragon, but this is the Japanese version, not worth that much. They are looking for the English version of the card that's ultra rare, which is the ultra rare prize card, and that is worth quite a lot. I don't know if it's worth $2,500, but it's probably around 2,000 mark. Most of the ultra rare prize cards, even if they're not playable, will sit around 1,500 to 2,000, wouldn't surprise me if when this was written, this card was that expensive in the proper version, but this isn't the proper version at all. Cyberstein, oh wow, a rare version of Cyberstein for $3,000. That's pretty surprising, probably because it's not true. And once again, I know it seems like I'm being nitpicky here, but this is really important because you have to remember, like, one of the biggest things on my channel is don't mislead anyone with this kind of stuff. Don't go out there and say this, don't put a picture of Cyberstein that's worth like $1 and then right above it put Cyberstein worth $3,400 and expect people to know that the version that is in your picture isn't actually the correct version. You should just put the correct version of the card so there's no confusion anywhere. I think even when you put the correct version of cards like this that have been reprinted, things like Crush Card Virus and other things like that, I think there is still a pretty high chance that people that don't know about Yu-Gi-Oh will get that confused, but especially if you put the wrong picture in there. As someone that's putting out content, whether it's a video or an article, you have to be as accurate as humanly possible. This was not hard to look into. In most of these cases, the person is specifically naming the version of the card and then they're putting in a different one. How hard was it to get the right image? I don't think it was that hard. And then we have another World Prize card. That's correct. More World's Prize cards. I think that's correct. This Grizzly looks kind of weird, though. Aren't they supposed to be ultra rare? And that one looks kind of like secret rare. I'm sure these... No, I don't know. That doesn't look... I think these ones are Oricas. Yeah, those ones are definitely... Maybe not. I'm pretty sure those ones are fakes. I wouldn't actually know. They look way... The gloss on them doesn't look quite right. They had a real Stardust Divinity up here. Yeah, that one's real. You can see that. This card's so hard to come by, though. I don't know. These ones just look... I'm not going to claim that they're fake, but I'm pretty sure those are Oricas, and I could probably do some research and find the old eBay listing where these are being sold. But these look a little off to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. Especially the Grizzly, the Star Beast, looks like it's a super rare, but with like secret rare foiling. But I don't know. But yeah, sure, it's a prize card. Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, the man, the myth, the legend, the one we just did a video about. Obviously, the thing here is that they're talking about very specific, very rare, like a card you will literally never come by. I think there's there's an image of it out here, but you can't find these. This $500,000 Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, it exists, but you're not going to find one in your shoebox. At least it says in 2016 it was on sale in a card store for $45, so I mean, it's whatever. So this one exists, and they say it was a prize card given out to the winner of Asian Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship. At least in this case, thank God they put the right artwork, the right version of this card. I think that's the only version that uses that artwork. That's really good, because otherwise you'd have so many people going into like pawn stores with their like regular $5, $1 Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon saying, here, look, this article said this is worth $500,000. Hopefully the pawn shop would do a little bit more research and figure out that it's not the case. And then number 2, we have these Blacklisted Soldiers. This is not correct at all. This is like the one that's it's a normal monster, I believe, and it has the I think it's a normal monster, even though it's technically like a ritual, whatever. Those exist, but it's they say it even here. It's sort of like a bit of a legend, which it is. These pictures are just of the regular structure deck ones or starter deck ones that aren't worth like anything. I think definitely not worth 2 million and 10 million. So if you find these in your shoebox after reading this article, don't get baited. They're not worth $12 million combined. And then we have Tyler the Great Warrior. I mean, every single list that is going to talk about expensive Yu-Gi-Oh cards, this one is always number 1. There's only like 1 in existence. I've heard that there might be 2. I think one of the employees that was working at Upper Deck or Konami has one. Maybe it wasn't, though. Maybe it just was one of... I don't really know the full story, if there's 1 extra copy or if it's just this 1 copy. I'm not even sure that that's the version of the card that's real. I thought the version of the card that was real was just a base rare, which is hilarious if it's true. This looks like an Orica, because, I mean, maybe not. I'm pretty sure that the real version is a base rare. I'll have to do some research for that, but I'm pretty sure that it was base rare, because I think that I've watched a couple of interviews with him. Maybe not, though. Maybe it was like a weird angle. I didn't realize that it was actually secret rare. Yeah, that has to be at the top. It is literally priceless. I don't know if it puts here. He's been offered some pretty crazy amounts for that card. I don't think he's actually been offered as much as this tournament Blacklisted Soldier, which is kind of like a myth or whatever. I don't think he's been offered like into the millions, but he's been offered well into like the 100,000s, which is pretty crazy to think about. But I mean, it's a one of a kind. Like, what do you expect from something that's you? There's only 1 of in existence, maybe 2 of if someone has one from Upper Deck or whatever. But yeah, that is the 25. What is this article called? 25 Yu-Gi-Oh cards that are impossible to find. I really don't want to read these articles like every single month or every single week. I want to just sort of, whenever I come across one that's really funny, like this one was, I want to read those every couple of months. Maybe it's not the most like edit intense videos. It's just sort of funny to read through these and see all the garbage that's posted online about Yu-Gi-Oh! But it is fun to go through every once in a while, and I thought this one was pretty hilarious. So hopefully you guys did as well. Anyway though, I'll see you guys later. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.